Attention passionate Montreal, Canadiens fans. Latest news, something big is happening in the Atlantic Division and it could shake up the entire conference. We're talking about a direct impact on Montreal Canadiens' path to another Stanley Cup run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Montreal Canadiens fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with your FRINDS and Montreal Canadiens fans. Let's get to the news. Now, folks, we have some intriguing developments coming out of the NHL, and believe me when I say, what's happening with Pavel Zacha is not just a small rumor. It's a story that could significantly alter the landscape of the Atlantic Division. And naturally, the Montreal Canadiens are right in the thick of this conversation. Zacha, the Boston Bruins' top center, has been at the center of trade rumors that are swirling like a snowstorm in Montreal. It's one of those stories that makes you sit up and pay attention, because it involves a player who, at 28 years old, is right in his prime, showing flashes of the talent and consistency that the Bruins value highly. Zacha's recent season was quite solid. He played in all 82 games, tallying 47 points, which is nothing to scoff at for a player in his position. He averaged about 19 minutes of ice time per game, giving his team a reliable presence in the middle of the ice. When we talk about his background, it's interesting to note that he was initially drafted 6th overall in 2015 by the New Jersey Devils. That's a pretty high pick, and he was seen as a promising talent from the start. Now, he's still under contract with the Bruins for a total of $19 million, with an annual average value of around $4.75 million. That's a contract that makes him a valuable asset, but also one that the Bruins might be willing to part with, especially given the current state of their roster and their need to rebuild or reshape their core. Looking ahead, Zacha is set to become an unrestricted free agent in 2027, but his future with the Bruins isn't exactly set in stone. The team's management has been exploring options, and the fact that Zacha doesn't have a full no-move clause means they have the flexibility to make a move if the right offer comes along. This is where things get really interesting because, as of July 1st, his no-trade list was shortened from 10 teams to just 8, which means the Bruins hold a lot of cards. They could potentially send him anywhere, and that has fans and insiders across the league speculating about where he might land next. Now, the rumors aren't just coming from nowhere. According to reports from the fourth period, teams like the Utah Mammoth and the Vancouver Canucks are considered potential landing spots for Zacha. The Canucks, in particular, are in a tricky spot at the moment. They've lost Pius Suter to the St. Louis Blues and J.T. Miller to the New York Rangers, so their depth at the center position is pretty thin. Adding a player like Zacha could be exactly what they need to fill that gap. The Mammoth, on the other hand, seem to be building a team with a clear playoff ambition, and Zacha's skill set aligns perfectly with their strategy. Bringing him in would give them a versatile center who can contribute both offensively and defensively, and that's exactly what they're aiming for if they want to push for the postseason next year. But it's not just about the teams that are actively looking. Fans from across the league are weighing in, and the chatter is loud. Some are even suggesting that the Montreal Canadiens could be a destination, but honestly, that would be a bit surprising given the divisional rivalry and the fact that the Bruins are in the Atlantic. There's always some skepticism when it comes to intra-division trades, especially between teams like Boston and Montreal, who have a long history of fierce competition. Still, some fans have floated the idea that the Bruins might consider moving him within the division, especially if they're looking to rebuild quickly or reshape their roster for the future. The intriguing part of all this is what it could mean for the Bruins if they decide to trade Zacha. We saw how the 2024-25 season ended for Boston. They finished near the bottom of the Atlantic Division, and that's a sign they're in a bit of a rebuild mode, or at least a restructuring phase. Moving a key player like Zacha without getting a significant piece in return could send mixed signals to their fan base. On one hand, it might be viewed as a smart move to clear cap space or to acquire draft capital, but on the other, it could be perceived as a sign that the team is giving up on immediate success. That's a delicate balance for the Bruins management to strike. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting from the Canadiens' perspective. Montreal, as we know, has been building a core of young talent and looking for ways to accelerate their development. They've made some smart moves in recent years, acquiring and developing players like Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, and Juraj Slavkovsky, aiming to return to playoff contention. The potential acquisition of a player like Zacha could add a seasoned, versatile center to their roster, providing leadership and scoring depth that could really complement their young core. It's all about strategic moves and understanding what kind of player best fits the team's long-term vision. But let's be real for a moment. Trading within the division isn't common, especially in a heated rivalry like Montreal versus Boston. Fans are skeptical, and some even argue that the Canadiens wouldn't want to strengthen a division rival by acquiring Zacha. After all, the Bruins are their division rivals, and there's an undercurrent of rivalry and competitive spirit that makes any intra-division trade a sensitive subject. Still, in the NHL, trades happen all the time for the right price, and players like Zacha are always on the radar because of their age, skill set, and contract situation. Looking at the bigger picture, what does moving on from Zacha mean for the Bruins? Well, it's a gamble. They've just wrapped up a disappointing season, finishing at the bottom of the division, and they'll need to make some bold decisions to turn things around. Trading a top center like Zacha without a clear plan for what comes next could be risky, but it could also be part of a larger rebuild strategy. If they manage to bring in promising prospects or draft picks in return, it might set them up for future success. But if they don't, it could leave fans waiting longer for a return to the playoffs. And that's what makes this story so compelling. It's not just about Zacha or the trade rumors. It's about what it signals for the future of the Bruins, the division, and even the entire conference. For Montreal fans, it's a chance to see how these big league moves unfold and how they might influence the Canadiens' path forward. Will they be able to capitalize on the shifting landscape? Will they find a way to add that extra piece to push them closer to their Stanley Cup dreams? These are questions that only time will answer, but one thing is for sure. This offseason promises to be intense, full of drama, and packed with opportunities for the Canadiens to take advantage of. Now, let's talk about the bigger picture. The NHL is always in flux, and teams are constantly adjusting their rosters based on the latest rumors, injuries, and strategic goals. For Montreal, the focus remains on developing their young talent and making smart acquisitions that fit their rebuild plan. The potential trade of Zacha, whether it happens or not, highlights the importance of adaptability in the league. The Canadiens have shown they're willing to be patient, but also aggressive when the right opportunity arises. They're building a team that can compete now and sustain success in the future, and understanding the landscape of the NHL trade market is crucial for that. In recent seasons, Montreal has also been making efforts to bolster their depth and bring in players who can make an immediate impact. They've been patient with their young prospects, allowing them to develop at the right pace while also making strategic moves to add veteran presence. The idea of acquiring a player like Zacha, with his experience, versatility, and scoring ability, fits perfectly into that vision. It's about building a balanced roster that can compete in the playoffs and eventually push for a deep run. And let's not forget, the Canadiens have a passionate fan base that's eager to see their team back in the hunt for the Stanley Cup. They want to see their team make bold moves, and even if they're cautious about intradivisional trades, they're always optimistic about the future. As we look ahead to the upcoming offseason, Montreal's management will be closely monitoring the Zacha situation and other trade rumors swirling around the league. They'll be assessing how they can position themselves to take advantage of the shifting dynamics in the Atlantic and beyond. Whether it's through draft picks, prospect development, or smart free agent signings, the Canadiens are in a position to capitalize on the chaos and come out stronger. That's the beauty of the NHL. It's a league of constant change, where every move counts, and sometimes, a single trade can reshape the entire conference. So, as fans of the Canadiens, what should we be watching? Well, keep an eye on the Bruins' decisions. Will they trade Zacha, and if so, where will he end up? How will that impact their team next season? And most importantly, how will the Canadiens respond? Are they preparing to make a splash in the trade market, or are they focusing more on developing their existing core? Whatever the case, this offseason will be pivotal, and the stakes have never been higher. The potential for big changes is on the horizon, and fans like us need to stay alert, stay engaged, and support our team through every twist and turn. And now, Montreal Canadiens fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Zaka would be a good fit for the Canadiens? Are you worried about trading within the division, or do you see it as a smart move? Your opinion matters so much to us and to the future of the Canadiens. Remember, I'll be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned for the latest Montreal Canadiens news and analysis. The offseason is heating up, and the Canadiens are right in the middle of it all. Thanks for sticking with me, and as always, let's keep the passion alive for our beloved Canadiens.